When the airwaves in your market become more and more crowded. It's time to break it open and really stand out. It's here.
Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos.
98.3 Mainland FM.
Good morning to you. Hello and welcome to radio. My name is Sage Babalola. Super pumped to be back here on radio. It's been an exciting week. We've been having interesting conversation throughout all the shows that airs on Mainland 98.3 FM. Of course, you're listening to Trends in the Papers. The station, as introduced before, is Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Sage Babalola, and just like I said before, Trends in the Papers is what is happening right this very moment. A quick rundown of some of the shows that we'll be having from now till about 8:30. We would have Trends in the Papers, a brief recess. We'll be back by 8:40 to 9:30, where we would have Mainland Focus. Today is Thursday. It's probably the most interesting day for the listeners because there are no restrictions whatsoever. You can talk about just about anything that you like as long as it's respectful and it's radio friendly. 9:45, we're back for Global View. That's where we review events happening in international communities. Another recess at 10:15. It will be time for Creative Nigeria. At 11:30, it would be headline news, and at noon, we would have global news at noon. So that's pretty much everything that would happen till about 12 p.m. today. Let's get straight, let's focus first on what we're doing this very moment, which is Trends in the Papers. I have my dailies with me, and we'll be reviewing them one after the other. This review, as always, would not be done by just myself, as I have joining me virtually, that's via the phone line, Fuhad Saheed, to give analysis to the stories that we would be reviewing this morning. Fuhad, good morning and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Sage. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So, let's get through the papers. The Guardian, The Nation, Vanguard, and last but not least, Punch newspaper. Let's open today's conversation with the report recorded or reported on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. The major story here, it has to do with the economy. MPC shuns bleeding economy, raises interest rates to 18.5%. Unfortunately, is not necessarily an exciting news for people who are, business owners in the country. But let's just read what the report says. Now, there are writers to this story. GDP growth slows to 2.3% in first quarter. Growth claim not real. Economists push back. Manufacturing not affected by interest rate hike. Effect claims. Global shocks weigh heavily on African economies, report insists. Now, yesterday was a tough day for the economy, with the National Bureau of Statistics confirming slower growth, while the Monetary Policy Committee raises the benchmark interest rate by another 0.5%, suggesting that growth is not yet its priority. MPC has had an unbroken monetary tightening run in the past 12 months, raising the interest rate from 11.5% to 18.5%. Yet, inflation has remained stubbornly high at 22.2% at the last reading. Fuad, the first paragraph pretty much encapsulates, the problem, encapsulate the proposed solution by the MPC, and also have reminded us where we are with inflation. 22.2% is the highest in 17 years. Yet, the MPC, for every time they convene, they very strongly believe that the primary solution, or should I say one of the best ways to tackle our rising inflation, is to continuously increase interest rates. A system that I think we have had enough time to conclude has not exactly been successful in solving our economic woes. So what do you think about the decision to continuously increase interest rates, despite the fact that economists continue to warn that this one action would probably continue to worsen the problem?
Well, again, I'm almost convinced that the CBN has lost a grip on the economy. It's almost clear as daylight that as it is, the CBN as is presently composed don't have a clear understanding of how to tackle the inflationary trends in the country, and they somehow lost a grip on what to do really about the economy. because again, in just 1 year, say, I've lost count as to how many times the interest rates have been raised at CBN. Because what you have now is that, look, commercial loans now, the interest rate on commercial loans now is pushed at about 28.9%, almost close to 30%. That's what we're dealing with now. Because at 18% CBN interest rate, we're going to be looking at commercial loans at almost 30%.
Yeah, almost double that.
Almost double that. So tell me, how does that in any way help to resolve the inflationary problems we have in the country? And you know, like you just read out, economists have continued to warn that, look, you can't have just one linear solution to a problem that requires bringing everything to the table. Because it's just a knee-jerk approach. It's not going to solve any problem. It's a simple knee-jerk approach. And it's also, a way, for me, I see it as a lazy way of trying to solve this problem. We've analyzed it severally, that the problem of inflation in Nigeria is caused by several factors. And you can't address one factor and leave other factors. It's not going to work. So the idea of continuously increasing interest rates as a solution for me, I really don't know where the idea is coming from. And it's a consistent pattern. This is every time they convene, the announcement we get is that they raise interest rate by maybe 0.5% or 0.something%. So are we going to raise the interest rate to 50% before we know that it's not going to solve the problem?
Fuhad, as much as there's some economics that think that this is not the wise thing to do, there's a report here, or one of the writers is insisting that there's one economist, Professor Ken Ife, an economist, has pushed back on the claim that the hike rates were crushing the economy, especially the real sector, which is the manufacturing sector. He believes that the continued increase in interest rate does not necessarily affect the manufacturing sector. Let me quote what he says. He says, "We don't know that whenever CBN increases rates, it does affect lending to manufacturers, but the manufacturing sector, yes, but the manufacturing sector is not the target of the CBN in increasing these rates. Manufacturers have many interventions that insulate them from commercial facilities. They have domestic finance intervention at targeting those manufacturing companies. The CBN gives them single-digit interest rates of about 9%.
How readily available are those insulations? That's the question.
Well, he's claiming,
how many manufacturers benefit from those insulations?
Well, he's saying that manufacturers get 9% interest rates as compared to the 18% that is now being announced.
How many manufacturers have access to that special fund?
We don't have that information here, unfortunately.
Because look, was it not just yesterday, the day before, that the manufacturers are complaining?
Right.
They talked about the level of inflation, drop in purchasing power as the reason why a lot of their goods have remained off the shelf to the point where they are now getting expired. The manufacturers themselves are complaining. So it's not the paper that are reporting these things. The reality is that the manufacturers understand that these are not even helping that sector. And if you look at what other economists are saying from that report, you understand that, look, this current CBN does not have a clear idea on what to do when it comes to inflation. Because again, you keep doing the same thing over and over again. How do you expect a different result?
Well,
People the same CBN that brought up the naira design policy that failed. If you look at that report very well, we lost almost 22 billion in the economy as a result of that failed policy from this same CBN. This was the same CBN that concentrated all its forex into one man's business.
Well, the CBN is confident that we would make progress with that, or there's some sort of, reward for the decision to.
Even if you go deeper into that story stage, how do you expect SMEs to survive now?
That's the thing.
Because, I keep talking about developing economies. If you go read the stories of developing economies, and those ones that have moved from that level to what is now called a developed economy, their major concentration is always on SME, the small and medium scale enterprises, because that's where you organically grow your economy. And so if you stifle that sector out as a result of this abnormal interest rate, you are probably going to ensure that, look, unemployment goes up, cost of living drops, and then you have a situation where inflation continues to rise. As we are speaking now, we have 22%. The problem is that they raise interest rates, inflation goes up again.
Yeah, of course.
They raise interest rates, inflation goes up again.
That's the thing. Like the continued increase in the interest rate is almost causing a corresponding increase in the inflation figures. So it beats me, maybe because I don't have so much of economic knowledge as to why they continue to increase it.
You don't need to go to the Harvard Business School to understand these simple things. It's not rocket science. Don't be deceived. Look, if you read that report, there are so many figures being bandied around by economists and all of that. The reality is that, look, we are not ready to roll up our sleeves and do the hard work as to what countries in the world do to tackle inflation. If you are not producing enough, you are only deceiving yourself. If you are not, if there are no facilities for SMEs to try, you are only deceiving yourself. If you're able to guarantee security for farmers or people who are producing food for the country, you are deceiving yourself. If your energy sector, as the largest economy in Africa, is hovering around 3,000 to 4,000 megawatts, you are deceiving yourself. How do you guarantee power supply to manufacturers and factories to thrive? And then you have the CBN governor who is supposed to concentrate. Look, a single money policy can never resolve inflation issues in any country. We have always said it, we have repeated it, economists have said it. So, like I said, it is obvious that this CBN has lost control, has lost grip on what to do. I only hope for a better tomorrow when a new government comes in.
I mean, definitely, a hydra-headed problem would definitely require a multifaceted solution, structure. So it's quite surprising that they continue to insist on this one singular, linear strategy in trying to resolve all the economic problems that we have. But then again, we will just have to accept it as it is. I don't know if it's possible to contend it because it's the decision of the committee, or whatever decision they have made has stayed over time. So again, we don't really have a choice but to accept what it is. Anyways, if you would like to read further, go to page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Let's move forward. We're still talking about the economy here. Naira faces downside risk, slumps to 760 naira per dollar at black market. The rider to this story: demand for dollar surges ahead of inauguration as big ticket demands return. Dollar scarcity, regime change, correlation gains attention. Now, 4 days before the inauguration of a new administration, Naira seems to have lost its long-standing 750 Naira per dollar resistance as it dipped to $760 Naira to dollar yesterday. Now, the market may have started pricing in uncertainty risk that comes with a change of national economic managers. Some dealers told The Guardian yesterday that there has been a surge in the demand for foreign exchange since the beginning of the week, though they could not justify the sudden spike. But further market intelligence suggests a comeback of high-ticket transaction to the black market. Fuhad, you've always spoken about the fact that why do we even have different markets? Why can't we just harmonize the whole thing? Why do we have official rates? Why do we have black markets? We know the answer to that because even accessing forex at the official, officially is a difficult process. It's not a cinch.
It's even fraud of corruption.
Exactly. So most people would prefer
running
to
two levels of forex market is fraught with a lot of corruption.
Well,
it also gives room for all manner of manipulation, and then of course what happens is that look, some people benefit while others don't benefit. So it doesn't put everyone on the same level when it comes to access.
Well,
so it's about the access you have. It's about how you can lobby your way through and all of that. And that's the unfortunate thing, really. And when it comes to the issue of forex, really, it still goes back to the way we are managing our economy.
Yeah.
What are the things that give the country first? I'm not even talking about how we manage the forex we have, the scarce forex we have. It doesn't even live the way we manage it. What are the things we have in place to earn forex? Let's even start with that. The greatest earner, what is supposed to be the biggest earner of forex for the country is the oil sector, crude oil. And that is the same crude oil that we can't even account for 50% of our exploration and exportation. We are still dealing heavily with crude oil theft as we speak. So in that area, we are losing a lot of money. The little forex we have again, it also goes into a very fraudulent subsidy regime as we speak. So the manufacturing sector that is also to help us to see people manufacture to the point where they are able to export and make forex is also stifled. So you can see that everything is intertwined, and the reality is that unfortunately, an institution like the CBN is supposed to be coordinating all of these things. He found one thing, even in his own ability to think these things through. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, we don't even have a government that has a clear idea as to how to manage the economy. For what anybody says, and that's why we keep talking about, look, these things are not just about sloganeering or coming up with policies and all of that. Managing the country's economy requires everything to come to the table at the same time, because if there's a loose end at one point, it affects the other. If there's any weak link in your economic structure, whatever you are doing on the other side is affected negatively by it.
Well, it's unfortunate that, well, as it is right now, 760 naira per dollar at the black market, and as you know, most of the transactions that happen, with the rates in the parallel markets, because it's like Fuhad said, it's quite difficult to even access for us via official channels. Again, it's not exciting news for business owners in the country. Small medium enterprises might not necessarily need forex in large quantity, but definitely the business landscape would suffer for this. Anyways, more information on page 18 of The Guardian if you're interested in the story, and you should be. Moving forward, we have another headline here. Buhari retains cabinet till May 29. 6 Senate approval for judgment debts. Riders to this story. I look forward to tending my cattle in Daura, says Buhari. Appointing Minister of State an aberration, Keyamo tells President. Don't appoint new Auditor General in 4 days to go, Buhari told. President seeks Senate approval for 226 billion naira, $556.8 million, and 98.5 million euros judgment debt. Afe Babalola wants National Assembly against Okaine fresh loan for Buhari. Now, in an anticlimax, President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday failed to dissolve his cabinet for the last time in his 8-year administration. Pictures with the council of the meeting. Now, the cabinet document. Let's end here and just focus on the report. Doesn't really capture everything in the riders. They're asking that you get more details on the website, but just let's focus on the riders based on the knowledge that we have of the situation. Appointing Minister of State an aberration, Keyamo tells the president. This is a rider. Fuhad, to the best of my knowledge, Keyamo is a legal luminary and he has an understanding of the law. So
and also a minister of state,
yes. So for years there's been the whole concept of a minister of state, and now he's saying that this is an aberration. So help us understand why this is happening at this very moment when we've had a minister of state. Why exactly has it suddenly become So why has it exactly become an aberration right now? Please help us understand.
I've not really read the angle it's coming from, but I do know that whatever he's saying for me does not even matter now. Honestly, I'm more interested in part of the story that talks about the president, telling his ministers to work till May 29. Now, that's not a problem if that's the way the president wants to exit office with his cabinet, But one would think that as at now, you should dissolve that cabinet and then, of course, prepare them to hand over properly. There's a transition committee, but I think the transition committee is more involved in the ceremonial part of handing over and all of that. But I expect that as at now, the ministers are supposed to be preparing their handover notes, handing it over to permanent secretaries of the different ministries, so that when a new minister comes, there's enough information as to where activities of the ministries end and all of that. But again, we are seeing a lot of activities around the president now. Some of these activities we didn't see in the last 8 years. See, all of this energy, this last-minute energy, I'm sorry, we never saw in the last 8 years.
We still spoke about Hadi Sirika yesterday and his decision.
In fact, he has said that by tomorrow, Friday, Nigerian Air, the aircraft will come to Nigeria. We're going to see. I don't know whether the paper has it, but there's a news.
I've not seen that yet.
He made a statement yesterday that, he said that whether we like it or not, before May 29, Nigerian Air will fly.
Yes, he did
and so the statement he made yesterday is that we're going to see the aircraft tomorrow, Nigerian Air. So he's like I said, maybe that's the reason why the president has agreed to dissolve the cabinet, so that he allows them to work till May 29. That's not a problem if they're not going to be destructive in any way. But I think that for proper transition, this is the time for them to prepare their handover notes and hand it over to civil servants in the ministry, so that when new ministers come, there's enough information and all of that on how the ministries have performed and some of the challenges and positives that they have at that level. But again, it is what it is. The president has said that, look, we can't wait to go back to Daura to attend to his cattle and all of that. He keeps telling us that, look, he's so much interested in retiring peacefully and not getting involved with politics or policies of the country. But honestly, I think there's a lot of fun, and that is why people are saying that, look, we should be careful in the way we handle the country this last, just about 4 days to hand over, I think.
Right. Yeah, 4 days.
So, yeah, 4 days, yeah, to hand over, you see this energy, this sudden energy from ministers and all of that. I think new appointments have even been announced.
Yeah, that's
By
why.
the president.
Yeah, that's why we're being told that don't appoint a new auditor general in 4 days to go. Buhari is told. They're advising that all these appointments in just how many hours to leave
I
office
think he just
is
appointed an
unnecessary
accountant general
at this time. So I don't. Most people are asking questions: why are all these appointments happening now? A new administration is exactly a new administration is coming in, and that means that they can make changes. So if they come in and they want to make changes, what exactly was the whole point of the 11th hour appointments and changes that are going on? And speaking of ministries and departments, there's also this rider here that the president seeks Senate approval for 226 billion naira, $556.8 million, and 98.5 million euros judgment debt. So basically, the debt is monies that the court of law orders that a losing party pays to a winning party, after litigation process has been done and over it. So apparently, there are ministries, there are departments and agencies that, have lost litigation. Well, I don't want to say litigation laws, but cases, and they need to pay. And so this is the sum total of the money that they need to pay. And of course, the president is asking that the Senate approve that this money.
Why not leave the incoming government to take care of that?
I don't have the answer.
Because as this government is leaving so many things to the incoming government, I think things like this left to the incoming government to take care of. Why this last minute, rush to clear some of these things? Why this? And that's why people are a bit suspicious about this sudden energy to quickly clear a lot of things. I would think that, look, what you have not been able to do in 8 years, I think in 4 days you should just allow the incoming government to take care of it. But that's my own opinion. Maybe people have a different idea of how things should run. But I think that we should be careful. I think the House should also be more circumspect now about approving some of these sudden requests from the presidency.
Right. Well, Afe Babalola is advising that the National Assembly should not approve any loan request by the president. If you remember, he asked that the Senate approves the another $800 million loan from the World Bank, because the subsidy removal is supposed to cushion the effect of the removal and what have you. Well, many are still advising that the Senate should not approve that particular loan. And to be honest, I can understand why. Interest rate is up now. Inflation is 22.2%. We're about 77 trillion in debt. I mean, in addition like that, I'm really looking forward to the strategy that the new administration intends to employ in solving the plethora of problems that they're already coming to meet, to be honest. But then I guess we'll find out.
I think what's in the Situation Room on Tuesday with Dr. David, I mentioned that, look, the first 100 days of the incoming administration would give us a clear direction as to where they're actually going with the economy. I think Nigerians are expectant. A lot of Nigerians are also excited about the prospect of a breath of fresh air. Let us have something different. Something different. Let's do something different. But in being hopeful about something different, I'm waiting to see the kinds of appointments the incoming president will be making. For example, we need to clean up and tidy up the presidency.
Right.
The current presidency is too unorganized. It's disjointed in a lot of ways. And so people are expecting to see, for example, who the incoming president would appoint as the chief of staff.
Right.
Very, very important, because the chief of staff is able to tidy up the presidency and give it a proper direction. And ultimately, we're also waiting to see who's going to be appointed as Minister of Finance.
Right. I mean,
very important.
I'm particularly interested about that position because, Lord have mercy, you are expected to give financial advice and all these things. So I don't know the kind of financial advice that they are getting.
Are not really to the Attorney General.
Of course, we need to fix the judiciary as well. Those are areas, very critical areas of concern. So I do agree with you 100%, and I'm sure the listeners will agree too. We'll find out on Mainland Focus. Anyways, you can get more information on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, let's talk about what's going on with the speakership and the distribution of power, or should I say the tussle that has been born due to the decision to distribute power a certain way. Now, Gbajabia Mila Wase clash as Ugo Chinyere, 62 others, OK Abbas Kalu. So let's look at this. Controversy over who presides at the 10th House House of Representatives appear to have caused a crisis between the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, and his deputy, Ahmed Wase. Now, the duo clashed during the plenary yesterday, and The Guardian had reported that the race for the key position was getting messier by the day as Wase stopped attending leadership meetings of the chamber. Now, apparently, trouble started towards the end of the session when Gbajabiamila asked Chairman of the House Committee on Rules and Business, Abubakar Fulatha, to prepare a light order paper for Thursday as the sitting will close by 2 to allow members attend an event of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Now, Ahmed Wase implied that that was not a priority. This is me trying to summarize so we don't have to go through the entire story. Now, Ahmed Wase, of course, stood up and commented that we have other important issues to address. Why are we wasting our time, spending our time? We're making arrangements about an event, the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. And of course, Gbajabiamila responded, it is of priority. It is an important thing. And then the back and forth happened. Now, the report is, of course, insinuating that that is not exactly the primary problem. It's the underlying issue of Ahmed Wase feeling somewhat betrayed that Gbajabiamila did not, endorse him for the position of speakership because he believes that, in the past he has been a very strong supporter of Gbajabiamila, and he's quite distraught that gesture was not reciprocated when, the position was being distributed, zoned and microzoned to those who it was microzoned to. Fuhad, do you agree that this particular problem, this arguing about what is priority or not, is pretty much just a pretense? But what is really happening is the alleged feeling of betrayal by Ahmed Wase. What do you think?
What's betrayal about it?
Well,
I've always said it that politicians are only about their own personal interests. And that's why maybe politicians need to learn that their loyalty should be to institutions, their constituents, and to the country. As a deputy speaker, you say you've been loyal to your speaker, fine. That's a choice. But now that you need the speaker to be loyal to you and push your interest, decides to do something else, and you are bitter about it, that's what is happening. It's obvious that Gbajabiamila is more disposed to Tajuddin Abbas from Kaduna State becoming speaker. And maybe Wase had thought that, look, all these years, my loyalty to the speaker would one day ensure that I also emerge as speaker. And Gbajabiamila has a different idea. I watched the exchange between Wase and Gbajabiamila, and I felt really sorry for Wase, because you see a man that is so bitter, a man that feels disappointed in his principle, if it's permitting to use that word. But that's just the reality of politics. There's no loyalty anywhere to anything when it comes to politics. It's always about personal interest. And for me, I also think the speaker was a bit too arrogant with his statement yesterday.
Right.
Because, of course, he had raised a concern, he had said something, and I think Wase thought that, look, that was not the priority. Of course, the exchange was as a result of the animosity between them.
Right.
But for the speaker to have said, this is the first time in the history of the House.
Yeah,
And if anybody cares to listen, I'm probably the oldest honorable in the House more than any of you.
Deputies challenging the speaker and all that.
You could see the aura of arrogance in that statement. But again, it is what it is. And, what we are seeing now, this is a prelude to a lot of drama that will still happen in that House.
Right.
I think Nigerians should be ready to see a lot of drama in that House, because if the APC is not careful in the way it is handling this particular issue, what you are going to have in the House of Representatives is a disgruntled, disorganized, dissatisfied House that will be coordinated. Because I must tell you that, look, the way the APC is handling the issue, even for the Senate, but I must say that the Senate, the issue of the Senate is not as even complex as what you have in the House of Representatives.
Right.
And as currently composed, a lot can still happen. As we speak to you, the opposition political parties in the House of Reps have 182 lawmakers. They have 182. The APC has 178. If you understand what I'm saying.
I'm with you.
So if you have the G6, they were G7 before I need to go pulled out. Now the G6 are still insisting that they would not go the way of the APC, and that they were going to produce a consensus candidate who is going to challenge the decision of the APC. And I'm saying that, look, if they can work together and bring the opposition political parties to their side with 182 lawmakers, with the APC with 178, because again, to elect a speaker, all you need is 181 lawmakers, 181. The opposition has 182.
Right.
So it's still a very, very dicey game for the APC, and they need to find a way to manage the situation.
But that's if opposition collaborates. That's the only time that they
again we say it. How did the APC and its leaders arrive at sharing principal positions and leaving out the North Central?
Right.
They've not been able to answer how they came about giving the South the Senate presidency, the North-West deputy Senate president, then the speaker again to the North-West, and then what's it called? Then you gave the South deputy speaker. I've always argued it from the first day this announcement was in. I said, what happened to North Central? Remember that the North Central has been shortchanged from this arrangement. I think it's about performance of region to how the APC emerged victorious in the last election. I say it again that no region performed better than the North Central. Even the Southwest was only able to give APC 4 states. The North Central also gave APC 4 states. As we speak, APC has 5 states in the North Central in terms of governors. So the North Central even performed better than the North. In fact, if we are going to look at the figures proper, the North Central performed better than the Northwest.
Right. Well, Fuhad, let's move to another story. I guess that as we get more information about the drama that is unfolding with the speakership position and so on, I will provide that information. Page 3 of Guardian newspaper is where that story is. Let's look at the final story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Concerns as Buhari allegedly waives 70 billion naira spectrum fee for telcos. We have here Pantami fingered in deal. That's the writer to that particular story. Now, facts have emerged on how President Muhammadu Buhari, through the Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, in Nigeria Communications Commission (NCC), allegedly waived over 70 billion naira in spectrum fees for emerging markets telecommunication service that are trading in Nigeria. Now, they've mentioned a service provider here that since the rebranding of Etisalat, and again, allegedly is the operative word here. Now, since the rebranding of Etisalat to Nine Mobile in July 2017, the firm has been linked to a particular billionaire in the north with close ties to the presidency. This is believed to have granted the telecommunication firm some preferential treatment in the industry as other telcos. So the allegation is that there's certain service providers in the country that's telcos. If you remember, we still spoke about them yesterday as to how they are raking in billions of naira of profit, yet yes, and quality of service is still nothing to write home about. Well, we're still getting more reports here that now the spectrum fee is the money that you pay to use like a frequency bandwidth, the areas that you can cover when you as a service provider. So you're supposed to pay a certain amount of money.
So they got this waivers.
Yes, so and it's the total sum is 70 billion naira. Allegedly, some service providers are getting preferential treatment because they allegedly have ties with the president, and that is why 70 billion naira has been waived for this telecommunication companies. Fuhad.
Well, again, we say we need money. We are waiving monies like this for telecommunication operators. And what's the justification? So these waivers can be determined by the presidency and the minister. Is that the way it's run? Nobody checks anything. The minister just looks at it as okay. And that's why we keep talking about the issue of vested interest. We keep questioning. You see, again, for countries that understand, the intricacies behind corruption and corrupt practices in government, what they first ensure is that, look, people in government don't have any business ties with anything. Because immediately you do that, the issue of vested interest comes in, and then you begin to manipulate the process in the favor of businesses. So and that's why people say, look, that's why as you are being appointed, you are made to declare your assets, you are made to do all manner of things so that we know where you belong and what to do. So that you don't come in manipulating the process, to the benefits of your business cronies and all of that. If you remember, on Nigeria, there's still the story, allegedly, that the Minister of Aviation also has some interest. And that's why some people say it's so desperate about ensuring that Nigeria Air must happen. Despite every indication that, look, it's going to be a failed project.
Wow.
So I'm not surprised. But again, like you said, it's an allegation. And since we don't have all the facts, I think we just leave it at that.
Right.
But it's important for us to establish the fact that, look, when people in public service, when people in government, have business ties and have vested interest in things, it gives an opportunity for them to manipulate the process in the favor of those kind of businesses and their business cronies. And that in itself is corruption.
Right. Well, that's it for the Guardian newspaper. Let's move on now to the Nation newspaper. But before then, if you're just joining us, this is Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Basically, what we're doing is reviewing stories that have been reported on the front pages of our dailies. My name is Sage Babalola, and I do have Fuhad Saheed here with me, and together we are reviewing the stories. Not to worry, in some few minutes now, we would give you an opportunity to speak as well. That is on Mainland Focus. But for now, just take note of some of these stories in case you would like to talk about them as we move forward. So now, the Nation newspaper, major story: Buhari and battling to cope with last-minute pressure. Military top brass sends off C-in-C. President charges armed forces to do more on security. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari is battling with enormous pressure as his administration winds down. On a day he juggled many activities, including inaugurating no fewer than 8 projects. He also left a parting message to the military: do not give up until the battle against insurgency is won. The president says he could not wait to exit office in 4 days, as the pressure of the last lap of his activities were taking a toll on him. I think we should just leave it there. Basically, he's just saying that it's a lot of work.
From the pictures and videos we are seeing, he seems to be enjoying it.
How will we know? We cannot know.
No. I'm saying from the videos and pictures we are seeing.
Right.
Unless, maybe videos don't give a proper, indication of how things are. But I think in the last few days I've seen him in military regalia, ceremonial dress, looking so sharp and bright, looking so happy. I think there's even a video circulating where his wife was trying to, dress him up properly and all of that. So a lot of those pictures seem to show that he's enjoying this last minute, activities. Like I said, there's so much energy in this government in this last minute. Maybe the pressure is too much. I think maybe we should just tone it down and probably leave some of these things the incoming government to handle. Because again, if he's complaining now that the pressure is too much, again, what has always said it. I think he just wants to retire and just go enjoy his private life.
Right. Well, that's it for the front page. I think the story continues on page 4 of the Nation newspaper. Now let's pick another story. Fuad, you asked the question, you don't understand, how they decided to distribute this, the positions of, Senate presidency, deputy, and what have you. Well, it might seem that this headline would address that conversation. And the headline reads, Why We Picked Akpabio by Shetima. Rider to this, Uzodima Oke's APC choice. Now, the story reads, Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima yesterday explained why the ruling All Progressives Congress endorsed a Christian senator, Godswill Akpabio, as Senate President. He said religious tolerance, stability, cohesion and unity of Nigeria were considered before the former Akwa Ibom governor was tipped as the next National Assembly chairman. Now, Shetima, who endorsed Akpabio for Senate President and Barau Jibrin for Deputy Senate President, addressed over 70 senators-elect. He says politics shouldn't be a means of disunity of our people. It should rather be a means of uniting us. The President-elect and the Vice President-elect are both Muslims. It is in the interest of the stability and unity of this country that the next position be given to the Christian faith. So Fuad, they're telling us that this was done majorly based on religion, religious inclusion, yes, religious considerations. That since we both have the president elect, the vice president elect as Muslim, they just thought to the next seat should be given to a Christian. So it wasn't regional politics, so to speak. It was on the basis of religious considerations. How do you feel about this explanation?
Now, Sage, again from 1999 till this is the first time having a Muslim president-elect and a Muslim vice president-elect. When the APC gave their ticket to a Muslim president, presidential candidate, and a Muslim vice presidential candidate, and there was uproar because that was the ruling party. A lot of people came up with it. But look, whoever the ruling party gives their ticket to is potentially a winner because of the capacity of the ruling party and all of that. When there were questions about that ticket, the Muslim ticket, what did Shetima say then? So suddenly, religious inclusion is now very important because his own interest is not involved. Because the same argument against the Muslim ticket is also supposed to be the same argument for the Senate presidency. Because at that time, when people question the Muslim ticket of the
should be
APC,
based on competence and ability.
so why can't we use competence in this one now? We should be able to use competence in this one too. Why should religion now become a consideration? Why? Why should religion now become a consideration? If religion did not matter when the Muslim ticket of the APC was being challenged, why should it matter now? And that's why I say that look, when politicians come up with the narratives of religion, zoning, ethnicity, it is not because they are committed to that thing. They only say it when their interest is not affected or is affected. If you understand what I'm saying.
I'm with you.
All of those issues of religious inclusion, equality, zoning, when you see politicians put it on the table of public discourse, it is only when there's something they're going to benefit from it. If it affects their interest, they're going to show it aside. So I would have expected that the APC and Kashim Shettima would have been very honorable with their statement, not to even go the line of religious consideration or religious inclusion. Because that was the party that told us that did not matter. It should be about competence. But again, here we are now. So Akpabio is now being chosen by the APC because of religious inclusion.
Yes.
But when it came to Shettima as a Muslim as vice president, it did not matter. I think our politicians should just spell this Bubu Yaya. Like they say.
Why is it not Google? Yeah. Okay. Well, if you want to read further, pick a copy of The Nation and check page 4. All the other stories on here we have addressed earlier, so I'll just talk about the Nigeria airplane to fly in. Page 4 of The Nation newspaper is telling us about that. I think this just confirms what Fuhad told us earlier, that the aircraft for Nigeria Air will arrive in the country tomorrow ahead of the commencement of operations. The aviation minister Hadi Sirika has said. He said the carrier is yet to be issued an air operator certificate by the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority. That's 20 months. Yes, after the federal government announced Ethiopian Airline as the preferred bidder of the project. So just to remind you, Ethiopian Airline would have 49% stake in the airline, and 3 Nigerian investors would have 46%. I'm trying to check how much we have as a country. Okay.
40, we have about 5%.
I'm trying to get through the report to see how much is reserved.
No, just do the money.
Okay, yes. The remaining 5% is reserved for the federal government. Yes, and is Nigeria Air.
How many percent?
49. 49. Yes.
Please, I have a reason for doing this calculation.
Yeah.
And I'm serious about it. And if you tie what I'm going to say now to the issue of vested interest, you understand why we have to question some of these things. Now, Ethiopian Airline has
49%.
So majority shareholder.
Yes.
As it is.
3 Nigerian investors have 46.
What those investors?
Yeah, their names are MRS and Sky Power Aviation Handling Company, SACO. Yeah. They didn't put the third person there. They just gave us 2 MRS and Sky Power Aviation Handling Company. They said so they mentioned 2. Apparently, they didn't name the third person.
For Nigerians who are interested, they should go and investigate those companies that have been mentioned. Whether they've been in the aviation sector, when were they incorporated, who are their board of directors, and all of that. And then if the federal government is only getting a bigger 5%, asking the question, why is the Minister of Aviation so desperate about this Nigeria Air project? You don't understand what I'm saying.
I know.
If Ethiopia would take 49, private investors will take 45.
46.
46. And 5 will go to the federal government.
Yes.
And you have the Minister of Aviation so committed, even almost swearing with his life that this thing must happen before he leaves government. Then we need to ask ourselves, why is it so much of a priority to him that this thing must happen? Despite the fact that our local airlines are in court, and there's even a court injunction to stop it already.
Yeah, not to distribute a certificate.
Because of the negative effect it will have on our local airlines and the aviation sector. Again, For Nigerians who are interested, you can go and do it and they understand what I'm saying this morning.
Fuad. Well, the rest of the headlines here: Buhari seeks nod to pay 556 million, 98.5 million euros. Judgment debt, interest rates hit 18.5%. FEC still alive, says federal government. Nigeria airplane would fly in. Those are the other headlines that we reported on the front page of The Nation. As I said before, all of the stories have been addressed. So let's take a quick peek at what has been reported on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Majority of the stories have been addressed as well. But let's talk about this. Refinery, we will ask Dangote to sell Forex at good rates. Says, Fuad, who do you think said it? Who do you think said it?
The headline should be, we will beg Dangote to sell Forex.
Why is it that they will ask? They will ask.
You see, we are communications people. Right. I'm saying that the headline should be, we will beg Dangote. Because we are going to be at his mercy.
Well,
there's nothing.
Look at this rider. Okay. Says CBN government helped him build refinery.
It's obvious now.
Yes. So I think this is to insinuate that we really helped you to actualize. So it's important that he also reciprocates and sell at a good.
If he now decides not to help us, what do we do?
They're hoping on that he's a moral man and he will just help us.
Yes. It's even good that we have it in the headlines now that the federal government help Dangote to build that refinery.
Yes,
and that's the fact. Don't look, forget the semantics. Forget anything anybody is saying. Nigeria helped that man to build that refinery by providing a very good loan to him at whatever interest rate we don't know. By ensuring that we provided staff correct. If you remember, that was even a period where foreign airlines were saying we could not even repatriate their forex to them. That was causing us a global embarrassment. If you remember. But at that time, it's a very fantastic project. The government said it's a game changer. Let's leave it at that. We are hoping to see, and we are waiting to see what will change in the game.
Fuad, if you would permit me, I would like to, quote what the CBN governor has said, please. He says, whether it comes to our reserves or not, it is not the point. It is the fact that the dollar is available and it will be sold in domestic markets so that customers of banks who need to import do not necessarily resort to CBN for dollars. They can go to their banks and Dangote will sell dollars to their banks. And we're going to ensure that it is done at a good market rate. What I would have loved to say on Monday at the Dangote Refinery Commissioning, which I did not say, was that the CBN, the government, and the country have helped Dangote set up that refinery. End of quote.
Nothing to say. I'm not saying anything.
That's why I asked that. Allow me to read that out.
It's okay. Let's just move on.
Right. So other headlines here. Pressure on me. I can't wait for May 29. Says Buhari. Keyamo to Buhari is unconstitutional to appoint Minister of State. I'm still trying to get context in this particular story. I will get back to it. Baja deputy clash at plenary. Paris club debt. Federal government to stop deduction from state accounts. Tina Turner, Queen of Rock and Roll, dies at 83.
Yes.
That's quite unfortunate. I'm not really familiar with her music, but then I'm rest in peace to her.
Not for this generation.
Yeah, Fuad, wow. You want to abuse us? Well, it's fine.
No, I'm just
You want to abuse us. Anyways, I'm just trying to see if in a minute we can really understand what he means by his unconstitutional to appoint Minister of State.
I've been trying to
yes.
Really,
they're not really giving us, they are going Minister of State for Labor and Employment. Yesterday said to President Muhammadu Buhari that it was an aberration to appoint Minister of State. He said this in a speech at the valedictory service. He said it would be difficult to assess individual performances of the ministers of state since their discretion was shackled under that of ministers, as any original ideas developed by Minister of State was subject to clearance by another colleague in cabinet, before they could sail through for consideration by the council.
This Minister of State came up as a way of ensuring that the appointment is distributed equally among states. That was where the idea of Minister of State came up from, so that we can have equal distribution of appointments and all of that. But honestly, if we look at it, why do you have Minister of State?
Exactly.
When you have the main minister,
somebody still has to veto the idea I bring. So what's the point? Why do you have a Minister of State then? So I think that's what he's trying to say.
If we argue that the cost of governance should be looked into, we need to reduce the cost of governance and all of that, Why do you have a minister and a minister of state?
True.
You know, and the funny thing is that the minister has an office. He has PAs, he has special advisors, he has all manner of aides, he has all of that, and then, you know, a running cost. The same thing will happen to the minister of state. He's going to have his own, you know, aides and all of that, allowances, office, and all. So, and what exactly are they doing, really? What is the minister of petroleum doing, for example, that the minister of state is not supposed to do or is supposed to do?
I mean,
so if it's on that basis that he's saying that, yes,
it makes
I agree
sense.
that it's just a waste of time.
We get it now. Thank God that at least the Vanguard was able to provide some context to that story. Well, for Punch newspaper, countdown to handover, FEC holds last session. Governors dissolve cabinet. Okay, so the governors have dissolved their cabinet, but the president has yet to dissolve the Federal Executive Council. So that's it for trends in the papers today. It's Thursday, which means it's Open Mic Thursday. So when we come back at 8:40, we would open the phone lines. You can call in and talk about whatever you would like to bring to the front burner. If you'd also like to refer to stories that we addressed during trends in the papers, you have the opportunity to do so. My name is Sage Babalola. Fuhad Saheed, thank you so much for joining us. Let's go on that quick break. Yes, 8:40, or be back for Mainland Focus. Don't go anywhere.